Here with Catamount softball coach Jim Clift, and coach season just around the corner, hitting the road tomorrow. What do you look for building off that tournament run from last year into this season?
Well, I think every team, wants to know who they are. You gotta kind of know where you're coming from, and I think that tournament, hopefully that carries over, because it seemed like last year we struggled with finding out who we were, and we started to kind of figure it out during regular conference. So overall, until the last week or two, we were doing very well in conference regular play, and then we got to the tournament, and it was the team that I thought we would have. And so certainly we've got a couple missing faces that were important, and some new faces in there, and every team's different, but you hope that can carry over with the returners.
You mentioned the missing faces, probably most notably in the circle in Jordan Garrett. Losing an ace like that, how do you get the rest of the staff to come and build in throughout this new year?
Well, whether it's an ace pitcher that had a stellar career for 4 years, which Jordan did, or your catcher with Heather Chastain, or somebody else, somebody's got to step up. Jordan stepped up for somebody else, and so did Heather. And so our expectation, and we feel that the talent's there, is for somebody to step up and be the next 700 plus career strikeout leader. So, I think it will happen, and I think that's where this preseason's really critical, is that people, not only the team's trying to find itself, so are individuals. And I'm pretty optimistic that that'll happen.
2 preseason all-conference selections on your squad. Talk about each of those players and what they bring both offensively and defensively.
Well, both are very important leaders on our team. Taylor Sigmund is actually, a captain on this team, and has been. Now it's her 3rd year as a captain, just a natural leader. And she's very well liked and follower. And then you have Courtney Price, who has always, she's that kid I always joke about. I always forget what her voice sounds like, because she's so quiet, but she plays so big, and she's so respected. You have players like that, and they can get going. It's real important for those two to start the way they finished, which was in a tremendous fashion, both offensively and defensively. And then for Taylor had that in the circle, doing very well last year. That if they can start this season off, the others will follow. And I think it's critical that they do that. But they certainly deserve every bit of credit. Any award that is bestowed on them, they earned it. They deserve it.
You look overall, this team returns a lot of offense from last year, the likes of the 2 players you just mentioned, Crystal Sear, Kara Salvo. But more particularly with Kara going third base and behind the plate now with Heather gone, how do you look to use her behind the plate and at third?
Well, it's tough. If you were to ask people, what Kara Salvo's number 1 position is, they would all say third base. She was an all-conference third baseman her freshman year, and I think she had 8 errors. Last year she didn't quite make it to all-conference, but she had 5 errors. So she was better from a defensive standpoint as a third baseman. You ask Karen, and she's a catcher. So you've got this outstanding catcher who's I believe defensively especially the best third baseman. No insult added to anybody in the conference, but I think the best defensive third baseman in the conference, and it's tough to take that off there. Now we've got some players that can. We have 2 freshmen that can fill in nicely when needed at that position. Madison Armstrong being one of those. Matter of fact, Madison is finding her way into being a very, very important part of this team, as is everybody on this team. We don't have a big team, and every player's role is critical to our success. But Maddie can literally play every position to the level of being able to start at the Division I level, outside pitcher. Matter of fact, I'm going to see if she can pitch later on. I'm not sure. But third base, she could fill in there. She can fill in every position, and her primary position is catcher. So, we've got another freshman with Hunter Gibbons, who is a left side infielder, so she can play shortstop and third base. And so, we got some options where we don't have a real large team. We may be deeper than we have been in a long time because of those 2 players able to do other things for us.
Coach, talk about your schedule. Not only the non-conference play, then going into conference play. A lot of teams in year 3 now with ETSU and Mercer joining the conference. Talk about the conference as a whole, and then the non-conference schedule leading up to that.
Well, our conference is, last year we got to experience it. It's tough to play in a conference. First of all, we've got great competition there, and I see a couple teams that could be first place teams in other conferences if they weren't in our conference, winning those conferences. But the thing that, besides the competition that makes it tough, is that we're really a small conference in softball right at this point. We have 7 teams, so just like it was last year, you lose one game and it's like losing 3 in years past. And it's almost, if you're going to win conference, you have to take at least at the worst a game in a series. You can't go and lose, get swept in a series. And I think that proved out last year. It's tough. We've got great competitors. Those teams you love to hate kind of thing, and you love to compete against them. And it's usually a pretty spirited competition when you play anybody in our conference. Outside conference, I think we've got a very good mix, or kind of a diverse schedule going this year. And so we added Virginia Tech in there, so we've got a little bit of the ACC and the SEC. I'm not sure how the flavor goes. Last year it was mostly ACC and no SEC, and the year before that for a lot of our non-conference stuff. We'll be going to a tournament at Western Kentucky, who has Western Kentucky themselves have beaten Tennessee each of the last 2 years,
Right.
so they're good in their own right. They've got an incredible pitcher there. But what that's going to afford us to do going out to Nashville is that we're going to probably play some teams we don't usually see, coming from more of the Midwest and a little bit up north. But we've got a good mix going around from across the United States, actually, and so we're pretty excited. We're going to at Georgia, we'll not only play Georgia, but we'll play Minnesota. And so we're kind of excited that never played Minnesota before, so that should be a fun experience. But I think we're gonna, it's a schedule that will have us ready for conference play, and that's what you really want to have. You gotta win those games too. They're just as important to me from a coaching standpoint. You win every game, every inning, every pitch, but at the same time, the secondary, it needs to get you ready for conference.
Coach, you mentioned the conference schedule. Conference preseason rankings came out. Your squad was picked 6th overall. Talk about what your expectations are this season.
Well, all the preseason rankings are fine. I don't get slighted or get too excited one way or the other about those things. I mean, honestly, if I were going to get bothered by anything, I think all my team is an all-conference team. So I'm more concerned about the player, not worried about the team. We weren't picked hardly
Right.
that high last year, and we did much better than that, and surprised a lot of people in the tournament. So, it's really what you bring out on the field that day. What's on paper doesn't matter. So, I'll take the 6th place preseason. That's great, as long as it's not 6th place postseason.
Well, Coach, we thank you so much for your time. We look forward to a fun season this year.
Absolutely, thank you. Appreciate it.